Hi, I'm Victoria West, and I wanted to show you today a stress-free way of getting your bees installed into your beehive. What I did is I started out with 4 frames in a 10-frame deep box, and I have my bees. They are in what is now called a bee bus, and it is a nice way to transport them from the apiary. So we have the bee bus, which houses, it's 3 pounds of bees, and it houses 10,000 bees. I know it doesn't look like it from in here, but there's a lot of bees in here. So we're gonna go ahead, and the first thing we wanna do is take the queen out and make sure she's okay, and then I will tell you a little bit about her. So you pull these 2 little tabs up, slide the plastic forward, and there we go, nobody's coming out yet. Your queen is stored right here in the top of the box, and you want to go ahead and examine her. She lives in here with some attendants that take care of her while she's traveling. I'm going to come around and show the queen. So the queen that lives in here, and she's transported in here, she is not part of the original colony, which is why she needs to come separately. They just pick queens and a bunch of bees and they ship them together. So the hive needs some time to get used to her. That's why there is a candy end, which you can see here, and an end without candy. And on each side there's a cork. What you'll want to do is take your knife and pry the cork out of the end with the candy. The bees will then eat through the candy, and that'll give them about 4 days to a week to acclimate, and they get to smell each other's pheromones and accept the queen into their hive. The only thing you want to make sure you don't do is don't take the cork out of the other end, because then she'll come right out and they could kill her. The other thing about the queen is that she has the dot, the color of the dot on her is the color of the year, so you know how old she is. So this year is, it looks like pink. Yes, she's pink, so you know that if you see pink next year and the year after, you still have the same queen and you know what year she was in. So normally at this point, and what you'll see in a lot of the YouTube videos, is that people will spray the bees down with a lot of sugar water, bang this guy a lot of times, pull out the can, and then turn the hive over and shake the bees out. And in the process, the bees get really stressed. You can hear them buzzing really fast, and it's a stress sound. And then you start getting stressed, and I've seen more than a number of videos with people getting stung. And that's really not the way to introduce yourself into beekeeping. So the way that I want to do this is a much less stressful environment for both you and the bees, and I think it is definitely a better way to go. So what I'm going to do is get the lid back ready, because when I pull the feeding container out, this is where the bees will come out. So we're going to need to go ahead and tap them down just a little bit, and then pull the feeding container out and put the lid back on. So go ahead and grab both your sides, and actually I'm going to do it over here so it's a little bit less. So we know they're down, feeding container out, and lid back on, and we only had 1 bee escape. That's not bad at all, and a couple on the can, so we'll turn that this way. They'll come back in. We're fine there. Now you're going to take your bee bus and set it right in here in your hive. Then we can go ahead and put the last frame in. So we're going to have 5 frames in here for now. And your bee bus. You're then going to take your queen and make sure that you're doing the candy end and get the little cork out of the candy end. So we're going to set her screen side down so the bees can come up and take care of her on the frames, just right on top of the frames. Next, we're going to go ahead and put this shim on. This keeps the inner cover from sitting on top of her. And now we need to get to the point, we're gonna need to put this guy on. And so this is where we need to take the plastic lid back off. So we're gonna kind of want to get this as close to over here as possible. Slide that off and slide that on. Okay, so as you can see, the queen is out of the cage and they've eaten through all the candy and let her out, so that's what that would look like. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and remove the bus. And there are no live bees left in here. They've all moved to the frames. There are some dead bees, but that's pretty normal with during transport, so that's okay. And then I'm just going to take a quick peek through all the frames and see if I can locate the queen. So that's what they're starting. They're starting to build comb on the frames. They've actually built up enough here on some of these to get some nectar going and some pollen. I am seeing eggs in the frame, so the queen is laying. That's one of the things you want to check for. So the bee with the pink dot is the queen, and it's helpful to locate her every time you do a hive inspection if you can. So it's helpful to have her marked, and there she is. So when I want to go ahead and put the rest of the frames back in, you want to put them in every other frame. So you have a frame of bees that are already established, and then you intersperse the empty frames in between. So that way the bees won't just stay on their one side and kind of ignore the rest. They'll build evenly. If you don't need to change the order that they're in for any reason, then don't. Go ahead and leave them in the same frames that they have. So this is all you would need to do for your first week of beekeeping. You've installed your bees, you've let them come out of the bee box, and then you've added the rest of the frames in, made sure you have your queen, made sure she came out, and made sure that she's laying eggs. And that's really all you need to worry about. They have food, and as we get into spring, we'll be able to pull off the sugar water and just let them go ahead and forage. And there you have it, stress-free bee installation.